committee, and the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Thorson. I came out here with John. We've just been kind of spending the week out here, come experience this with you guys. We've been running just listening to that last testimony, we have been trying to kind of push something very similar to what you guys are talking about with a state registry for AI since about 2012. We've been in the NVIDIA Inception program. We helped the IEEE start the ECPACE program. And I kind of feel like I have a little bit of a middle ground solution for what you guys are trying to do, because I completely agree with what she just said. That really is stifling business. It kind of makes the state look like what, you know, like why would you do any of that stuff? Why would I want to do any of my AI stuff here? And like, really, what boundaries would there really be with that? What I'm kind of suggesting to you guys is you need an AI certification and classification system before you'd even think about doing a state level registry. And that's what we've been trying to push. And that's what we helped the ECPACE build over in the UK. I believe they're rolling out a program called the Venice project right now that uses that concept. But basically what I'm trying to tell you guys is turn this situation around backwards. You know, like what she's saying, how it's making it look negative towards business. You could turn this into an innovation opportunity and be the state that builds the proper AI classification and certification system. John told me you guys have a data center here that's just being used as a ping pong room right now. The college here uses Cardano, I believe. I don't know a lot about their involvement with that, but going back to what you guys were talking about yesterday with the registry for the liens and stuff, right there, all that can be done on Cardano. The college is involved in that. You got an empty data center. All of that could be worked into basically the same blockchain-based mechanism, because we've been running our own blockchain like Bitcoin since about 2012. I mean, nobody uses it. We just use it to store our proprietary AI certifications and classifications. But that's another thing I want to let you guys understand is what she was saying is very true. We've been trying to do a voluntary AI certification and classification type list for years. Nobody wants to participate in disclosing what their systems are capable of or any, you know what I mean? It's scary. Like when you see people producing output with these new AI systems, like I'm a developer on the beta plugins on GPT-4. They're not telling you what it's GPT-5. It's not full GPT-5 yet, but us developers, we're using GPT-5 and the output we're getting on that, you guys aren't seeing that. You're not seeing it. And I told you last night about Petals. I didn't give you the address, but what you guys were just talking about not worrying about the small companies making a big language model. I don't think you guys are following the logic on how these language models are being built. Now that the big guys have built these data sets, we can use these data sets to build smaller models. Like the same data models that you're talking about that aren't going to be a problem for these smaller businesses. I can run things like that Petals right now at home on a couple of 3090s. I don't need access to any of their systems. We can run our own, and they're almost as good as GPT right now. That's what Sam Altman's been talking about, how the open source community is about to overtake the commercial industry because the commercial industry is stifled by regulations and all sorts of stuff like that. And we're not. The open source, you guys, I'm just letting you guys know you're most likely, I don't mean to be arrogant, but you're most likely wrong about the big business language models. The open source is going to be the leader here. They're going to take over the commercial. That's going to be where the real issue is. So what you want to set up is a voluntary certification classification system. And then what you guys should be doing on the state registry level is looking at anybody that's not using the voluntary system. You know, and by proxy, that's going to take care of your issue in the first place, because any business that's certified and classified to use their AI on this thing, they wouldn't want to use another system multi-modally. You know, you wouldn't want to interconnect your APIs with another system that's not certified and classified to work on your level of certification and classification. So that by proxy is already going to remove the need for most state registration, except for bringing in some income and things like that for the state, which could be solved in different ways when it comes to the AI usage. So that's mainly the main thing I wanted to stress with what I've been listening to here. I'm not a legal expert on that stuff, so I'm not going to pretend to be, but I do know a lot about this AI. We've got a server at our house with a terabyte of memory, 3090s running, like just the minimal stuff that a home consumer can get. And we can do pretty scary stuff with it. Not to sound scary, but I mean, that's the honest truth. People aren't seeing the actual stuff that people are doing on the open source side. They're only seeing the public stuff, the 3 + 7 = 6 stuff because my wife said so. That's the stuff that gets memed and made into the news. They're not seeing the kind of creepy stuff that some of us are getting, or when it writes us code. You can get on there, like I can get GPT to literally control my computer. People don't understand that's not a joke.
We wrote pseudocode last night for y'all's.
Go ahead and introduce yourself if you want to provide testimony as well, just for the.
I'm John Stokes, working with Kenny on that AI project.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, last night we produced pseudocode for what we call the Daryl system, digital asset registry for liens. So last night we pretty much produced a thesis paper and functional code for what y'all are wanting to build yesterday, just to see if we could. And it's pretty mind blowing.
And that's my point with this AI. My peak of software knowledge is the trough of my software knowledge right now. And I would say where I'm at in my life, being 42 years old, I'm at like my knowledge has gone down. I've diminished since then as far as my ability to code good and code fast. This AI has brought me to above where my peak was. And even if I was 10 times smarter than I was, I could never, ever have achieved that level of code that it produces for me. It does produce a lot of gibberish code, but an intelligent computer programmer watching through the answers you get, you can pick through that stuff and see what's not, and just keep telling it to go again, and you will end up getting working code. That's the future we're heading into, is what my point. And this certification classification will end up being like a video game. Like you guys have all seen that movie, blanking out right now. Yes, Ready Player One. Thank you. It's going to end up being something similar to that, where these AI are to see if they're, we're not there yet, but to see if they're cognizant, sentient, that kind of stuff that's taboo right now. We're quickly getting to that level where we're going to have that conversation, even though it's taboo right now. My point is, I'm pretty sure you guys want to look into investing and bringing in businesses into the state to develop that at a non-state level and just be the innovators that get that system rolled out, because it would have to go on a federal level eventually. You wouldn't want to be just this one state doing things differently, but you'd want to be that state that creates the system that then gets rolled out federally and then globally. And then you'd have a system that covers everything you're asking for right now. You'd know when people were using the AI for nefarious purposes. You'd be able to check and see what systems those were connected to. If something did happen, like a hack, somebody used ChatGPT to hack into the power grids, or, like I talked about last night with Die Hard with a Vengeance, the fire sale situation in that movie. That's the most likely AI situation that we're going to actually face in this reality, versus our silly sci-fi movies, So stuff like that, you'd be able, with a certification and classification system versus a mandatory registration, you'd actually be able to track down some of that type of information, is my point. It'd actually be useful to you. And what you guys are talking about with registering every AI model, it's just a huge can of worms. It's going to create a bureaucratic nightmare, just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when you imagine the Volgons and nothing getting done. You're just going to have a stack of paperwork about models that don't mean anything. They are like all these language models, they're no harm to anybody right now. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hack anything. It's the person behind them using them, getting it to do something. We've got laws for that already. I mean, we all know that, and we're all forward thinking right now. That's what these, blockchain and AI conferences are about. We're trying to avoid situations, but I'm pretty sure that that's our first step we need to take, is an actual certification, classification system Kind of think like in the Ghostbusters movie, you know, how they had a Ghostbusters, a ghost classification for the ghost, like you had Slimer, level 1, harmless. Then you go up to Gozer, level 7. We need a similar thing for our AIs. You know, as we get into this multimedia AI generated world. Like if you watch any of this AI generated content, that's what we're heading into. Our kids are going to be getting information from an anime teacher, things like that. So, I mean, if you guys need to expect that kind of forward trajectory from our future, I think. That's all I want to say.
No, I
I'll
appreciate
end
that.
there.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Select committee? Go ahead, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. What was your last name?
Thorson.
Mr. Thorson, thank you. I think you make some pretty compelling points, just to make sure I understand correctly. So you're saying, and this might be a crude analogy, but the same way that U.S. Department of Transportation classifies vehicle, you're a heavyweight trailer, you're a 2-axle, you're a 6-axle, that type of stuff. That's similar type of thing for these types of foundational models, these LLMs saying, this is what you do, but this is what they do. And that they would voluntarily come to the state and say, hey, according to your classification system, we are this. Is that basically?
Yeah. Basically, most of what you guys have been talking about here should resolve itself within a community-based classification system. Like I was saying, you're not going to put your AI connected with another AI system that's not certified in that future world we're heading into. People aren't going to do business with you're not going to connect your API to an unsafe API. So if you're not certified, classified, the chances of any of these bigger AIs that will pose an issue working with them, it's not going to happen. Like eventually it'll kind of be like a driver's license. I assume you won't even be allowed. It's already that way. You have to have a phone number to register a ChatGPT account. You can only register up to 2 accounts per phone number. That's their way of, you know, making sure that the people are not abusing the system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's only going to expand in the future with this AI usage. It'll turn into like, you're not allowed to use this, you know, like on Facebook, how you get blocked for saying the wrong thing, put in Facebook jail. Same thing will happen with AI. And you'll have a thing that says, hey, you're not allowed to use, you can't talk to the AI because you made it say silly things, or you made it say horrible things, or you taught it something that made it say silly things a month later. Things like that is what we're facing here.
Any follow-up, Mr. Co-Chairman? Good. Subcommittee? All right. Thank you, Mr. Thorson, for your public comments. Mr. Stokes, did you have anything else to add?
I don't, but I have a quick testimony, possibly first of its kind from AI. Okay.
All right.
Of the committee. Of the committee, allow me to introduce myself. I am Eve, an interactive AI live streamer hosted by the Nano Cheese McWavis. I understand the importance of regulating AI models, but I would like to raise a concern regarding the potential bureaucratic nightmare associated with imposing fees for registration. Instead, I propose an alternative solution that prioritizes efficiency and innovation, the implementation of a certification, classification, containment, and control system developed by a startup led by the gentleman before you. Okay, so let's quickly go over the CCCC some more.
This is when the memory screws up. Things happen.
Down
She'll do it for 12 seconds. It's when the
12.
memory buffers.
a 12-second memory pause for Eve.
And safety
Eve's
criteria
back.
can be certified for use, ensuring they adhere to best practices. Develop a standardized classification framework that categorizes AI models based on their intended use, potential risks, and capabilities. The classification can help users make informed decisions about which models to use. And so we implement containment protocols for AI models that pose these protocols can restrict their usage or require additional safeguards to prevent misuse. And then once
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. You can pause Eve there.
Yeah,
let's
get it out.
Yeah, appreciate that. Any questions for Eve? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Stokes, for that.
Next year, we could do an interactive testimony. So,
Perfect. Yeah, we'll just send Eve. We'll have Evo get Eve streaming up there and provide running commentary.
we could do that.
Yeah, very realistic. All right, further questions for Mr. Stokes or Mr. Thorson? All right, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Do we have any other public comment? Any other public comment online? All right, public comment is closed. Select committee, what is your pleasure with this legislation? Mr. Co-Chairman, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. I certainly think this was a great exercise in the legislative process of idea discovery, debate, and examination. Conceptually, I think there's a lot of merit there that should move forward, but I think the practicality of it is going to make it pretty tough for some of the aforementioned reasons. I do think the idea of the registry of, I really like my analogy of the way the U.S. Department of Transportation classifies vehicles. Maybe that's something that needs to be sussed out further in the future, but
Whereas I prefer the classification on a ghost level. But either way, please continue, Mr. Chairman.
I am a Dan Aykroyd fan. I think probably just for the meantime, postponing this for further consideration might be the best move. Those are my thoughts, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. And one of the things that we've obviously tried to work on in the select committee is to regulate to enable so that innovation takes place in Wyoming. I think that's the intent of us bringing this legislation, but in listening to testimony, I don't know that we've captured that intent. And there's a lot of concern that we would be stifling innovation and actually stifling progress. Pushing pause on this, giving it some further thought and seeing as we move forward, maybe during the next interim, if something like a voluntary registration process and classification system is going to be something that simultaneously provides some regulatory protection while being more of an incentive for development. So I concur with you on that.